Instead of actually resting, you are busy worried about how you are not working. And at the end of the day, you don't get the benefits of resting because you didn't actually rest. It is important for you to be happy in order for you to be productive. I don't know anyone that is depressed and has the energy to do all the jobs that they are supposed to do. There's no way you can be consistent in doing something that is not consistent with your default setting. You cannot change the fact that we chase after pleasure, but you can alter the definition of pleasure, because at the end of the day, pleasure is whatever you define it to be. So let's sit down here and define it in a way that it will help us to be consistently productive. What's up, beautiful human? I'm my name Blessing Wash, and you're welcome to Thrive Haven. In today's video, we'll be talking about how to be more productive. So I'll be sharing with you some productivity tips, and I get it, this is not your first time watching a video about productivity, so I'm not about to start repeating the points that you've obviously heard 100 times in other videos. So let's just get into the points without wasting any of your time. Number one point is rest with the whole of your heart so you can walk with the whole of your strength. Can you remember those days when you take time off work in the name of resting, but you know deep within you that you are not actually resting? Because that time you've taken off work, instead of just resting, you are being worked up with the fact that you are wasting precious limited time in doing nothing instead of doing the work that's piled up waiting for you. So instead of actually resting, you are being worried. You're busy worried about how you are not working, and at the end of the day, you don't get the benefits of resting because you didn't actually rest. Actually, our brains consume so much energy when we're thinking, and so at the end of the day, when you're done sitting down doing nothing and it's time for you to go back to work, you don't have the energy to do the work after you've just spent time doing nothing. But actually, it wasn't even nothing. You were still draining the remaining energy you had in you. So now you're showing up to work without being rejuvenated. You've just succeeded in wasting your time because you've taken time off work, but you're not actually resting, and so you can't get the full reward of resting. But I guess taking time off work and doing nothing, somehow it's a part of rest. Maybe you get a little bit better, but you won't get the full reward of resting because you are not fully resting. You were doing some sort of work still by thinking about how you're not working, how you're wasting precious time. And sometimes those worries are legit because maybe you're actually supposed to be working right now and not supposed to be sitting and doing nothing or just scrolling the social media. So if that's your case, then it's preferable you just get up, hold that discipline tool, because discipline is your right hand tool at this point. Hold on that discipline tool and just go back to work. But if you know that genuinely you've worked and it's time for you to rest, in order for you to rejuvenate yourself so that you can be able to go back to work and perform optimally, like in the case of taking time to sharpen the axe so that you can be able to cut the tree better, right? If you know that's your case, then I would advise you to rest fully, like wholeheartedly, so that you can get the best result out of the time you've taken out of work. But the thing is, sometimes we don't trust ourselves. Like, we know we're supposed to be resting right now, but we know ourselves more than anyone else. We know that this resting that we're doing, when it's time for us to get up, we will not get up, and so that's why we're anxious. So in my situation, most times I give myself a time frame. I'll say, Blessing, this rest is important. You have to do this rest. So let's say it's 12 o'clock. I give you 2 hours. By 2, you're getting up to go back to that work. And most of the times you see that the anxiety is gone. I have a time frame for the rest. I know I'm not going to rest forever and ever and ever. So far as it's not two, it's okay for me to keep resting. But when it is two, it's time for me to get up. But the trick comes when you already have a track record of disappointing yourself. If you have already disappointed yourself multiple times, you've told yourself in the past that you'll do something at so time and the time came but you did not do it. If you give yourself that timing that by 2 o'clock, get up, you'll not get rid of that anxiety because your brain knows you already. You say, I'm very sure when it is 2, you'll still not get up. So, I don't trust you. I cannot just allow you to rest. Get up, get up. You're supposed to be working right now. So, I'll not allow you to rest. That's how you keep on being anxious, even though you've already set the time that by 2 you're going to get up and work, because you don't trust yourself. For every relationship to work, what did we say is important? Communication and trust. So you need to trust yourself that when it is 2, you're going to get up and do the work. But maybe you don't trust yourself. It's not too late. It's time again to start. This is a fresh start, I guess. Let's say this is another fresh start for you. So talk to yourself and tell yourself, okay, I might have not been the best or trustworthy person to you in the past, but guess what? Today I'm about to change. Today I will make sure I don't disappoint you. I'll make sure when it is 2, I'm going to get up and show up at that place of work. I'm going to show up and do the work. But the only way I am guaranteed to show up, because I know that's your concern, you feel like you cannot trust me to really show up. So I'm telling you that the only way you can guarantee me showing up is when I am fully rested. And there's no way I'm going to be fully rested if you keep bugging me like this with anxiety. So just trust me so that I can prove myself to be trustworthy. If you keep on attacking me with this anxiety, I'll be worked up, and when it is 2, I'll not be fully rested. I'll be stressed up even the more probably, and so there's a high chance of me not showing up to the work at 2 o'clock. So just trust me, and voila, you've gained your trust back. Okay, but this time around, make sure that you show up by that 2 o'clock, because once you feel yourself again this time, I don't know how you can redeem yourself again after all that sweet talk, after all the promises, and you break yourself's heart again, you disappoint yourself again. I don't know how you want to mend that broken trust. The thing is, you can still mend it, but it's gonna be harder than this time around. So you want to just keep it easy and cool. You want to just keep the trust there, because you want to have a healthy relationship with yourself. And the thing is that some people, their anxiety is as a result of them genuinely not seeing the importance of rest. It's not because they have failed themselves in the past. No, it's just because they don't see rest as something that's important. So to them, taking time off work is just wasting time. So if you're one of those people, you have to know and let yourself truly know that rest is part of the package. There's no work that is completed without rest. Even God, I'm Christian, and so I believe in the 7 days of creation. 1 day in the sight of the Lord is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day to the Lord. So in the Bible, it was written 7 days, and we will take it as that, whether each day represents 1,000 years, but that's what we have there. So God created the world in 7 days, but in those 7 days, He used 6 out of the 7 for active work of creation, and then on the 7th day, He rested. So for every 6 days of work, there should be 1 day of rest. There is a work to rest ratio. The work is not completed until you fully rest. And so some of you may say, oh well, I'm not done with the work, I'm even yet to start, so why am I resting? I'm supposed to be doing the work, and then when I'm done with the work, that's when I can rest. Didn't you just finish doing something right now? then who said that you're not supposed to rest for that job that you did? You need to rest so that you can complete that job and then move on to the next. Without you resting from the previous work you've done, then you've not really completed that work. And how can you start a new one? And then maybe if you're just someone that has not worked like throughout the day and still you're on your couch, then your case is different. Just grab that discipline tool I mentioned earlier and work with it. Go with it. Yes, that's your tool. That's the advice I'm giving you. Go with it. So, but if that's not your case, then you should really accept rest as an important part of the work, because if you do the active part of the work without resting, you carry over the stress of that work. But for you to be completely done with the work, you're supposed to let go and release the stress acquired from that work. And the only way to relieve yourself from the stress acquired from the previous work is by resting. So you see how rest completes the work cycle. So next time you're tempted to think that you're wasting your time by not doing work all the time, remember that rest is also part of the work. And so that's it. I've said a lot concerning this point. So let's just move to the next point at this point. The next point is have the right values and have the right metrics. You may be wondering, why are we talking about values when we're talking about productivity, and what the heck is metrics? Well, everyone has life values, right? And some values are good, some values are bad, some are gray. And your way of measuring how close you are or how aligned you are with your values, that scale that shows you how close or how far you are in being in line with your values, is the metrics, while the value itself is something that is important in order for you to be productive as you want to. Because we can denote from the previous point that it's important for you to embrace rest wholeheartedly and be happy with your decision so that you can be fully rested and get to the strength that you need, right? We can denote this point from the previous point, right? So it is important for you to be happy in order for you to be productive. I don't know anyone that is depressed and has the energy to do all the jobs that they are supposed to do. When you are depressed, you become lazy, you become tired, you become nonchalant towards life. You're not interested in anything work, you just want to be sleeping and even maybe just exit yourself from this world. That's what depression does. But when you're happy, you are energetic, and when you have the energy, then you can be able to do the work as you are supposed to. Because I'm telling you, no matter how much you want to do something, if you don't have the energy to do it, you are not going to do it. Show me how you're going to do it without the energy. You don't have the energy. So since happiness is an energy booster, so when you're happy, you have the energy to do the work that you want to do. So it's very important for you to prioritize your happiness when you want to be productive. Avoid toxic productivity because it kills your happiness, and so far as your happiness is killed, you're on your way to depression. And once you're depressed, you don't have the energy to do anything. And so you end up not doing anything and you enter a rabbit hole. So how can your values, having the right values and the right metrics, help you in achieving happiness? The truth is, life rewards good values. Because though, why shouldn't it reward good values? If you should have a bad value, you're not going to be happy. Life is not going to reward you with happiness, because by giving you happiness, it's like it is encouraging bad values, and life will not encourage bad values, and so you will not get the reward or results you desire after accomplishing a thing. After achieving your values, you're not going to get the happiness that you desire, because life is not going to reward that. But when you have the right values, life is going to reward you by giving you happiness, fulfillment. You're just going to be fulfilled and happy and a joyful person at the end of the day. That's the way of life rewarding you. And so if you have a bad value, life will punish you. If you have good values, life will reward you. But if you have good values but bad metrics, you are in this situation punishing yourself, because you're not going to get the end result, which is happiness and joy and fulfillment. You're not going to get it at the end of the day, those things that you need in order for you to be boosted, like energy boosters, right? You're not gonna have them at the end of the day. Why? It's not because life has not released it to you, but you are withholding yourself from getting it. So having the wrong metrics is your own way of punishing yourself and withholding yourself from receiving the rewards that have been given to you by life for having the right values. So let's just go straight to what makes a value a good value, what makes a value a bad value, and let's have some examples. So a good value is one that is already in line with the will of God, so it's good, and it is totally now depending on you to decide whether or not you're going to achieve that thing. Maybe it's not really clear, maybe it's not the clearest definition out there, but let's say this thing is totally depending on you to see that it is actualized. It doesn't depend on another person for it to come to reality. That's a good value. It's already in line with God's will, like it's God's will for you to have a healthy lifestyle. But it's now left to you and you alone to decide whether you're going to have a healthy lifestyle. It's not your neighbor that will determine that. It's not even your government. It's you. And so having a healthy lifestyle is a good value to have. And then now bad values. They are the opposite of good values, of course. So in this case, most times the Lord is not in line with God's will. But maybe it's not a bad thing in general to wish for in life, but for it to be a value is not a good value. When it comes to value, that thing is not a good value. So maybe it's even part of God's will for your life, but it is not totally depending on you for it to be accomplished. It's depending on other external factors. It is depending on external factors such as maybe your government, the country you're in, or other people in general. It's just depending on other people and not you alone. Then it's a bad value, because no matter how much effort you put into it, you can't guarantee the actualization of it. And once you've put in so much effort and yet you do not get it, you're not going to be happy. And guess what? The end result is supposed to be happiness, joy, and fulfillment. Right? So the fact that you're not guaranteed to get them, it qualifies it as a bad value. So what are examples of bad values? Let's say wanting people to like you. To be liked by people is a good thing, right? But is it totally depending on you? Does it totally depend on you to be liked by people? I guess not. It's totally depending on you to be a good person. So being a good person, aspiring to be a good person, having that as a life value, it's a good thing. It's a good value to have. You can be a good person. You can be the best person on the planet, but some people will still not like you. So that disqualifies it from being a good value. Because at the end of it is frustration that you get, despite all the efforts. And a good value is supposed to bring fulfillment, not frustration. And so it's a bad value. Another example is wanting people to laugh at your jokes. It's left on you to be like funny, to have great sense of humor. It all depends on you to have great sense of humor. You may not have great sense of humor, but you can work on it and develop the skill of having a great sense of humor. But just because you have great sense of humor doesn't mean that people are going to laugh at your jokes all the time. Sometimes your humor may just irritate some people. That's the truth. So it's totally out of your control. And so that thing is not a good value to have. It's good, of course, to make people laugh at, to have people laugh at your jokes. It's a good thing. But to hold it as a life value, no, that's a bad and a wrong life value to have. Another life value that is a bad value is, and I think this one, some people, it may not sit right with them. Don't get me wrong. It is totally a good thing, but it doesn't fit into the definition of a good life value. It's a good thing to have, like when it comes, go for it if that's what you want. But when it doesn't come, it's not something that you should hold on to, because it doesn't totally depend on you. And at this point, you'll be saying like, oh, blessing, just say it already. What is it? Okay, marriage. Marriage is not a good life value to have. Don't get me wrong, as I said. That's why I started explaining before even saying it. So don't crucify me. I beg, with this situation that we have, the being single and independent trend, and then we have the trad wife trend and all the rest. Please don't crucify me. Okay, Jesus has paid the price already. Let me explain why I said marriage is not a good value to have, because I need to explain. Marriage is not totally depending on you. You can be the best person in the whole world. You can be 100 yards wife material, 100 yards husband material, but still be single for a long time. I'm telling you, you can work on yourself and be the best version of yourself, but still be single, because it's not totally depending on you to be married. It takes two to tango, and can two work together unless they agree? You can desire to wish marriage from today till thy kingdom come, but if the other person is not interested in marrying you, it's not gonna work. It doesn't totally depend on you. You can put in as much work as possible, but you cannot guarantee it happening, and so you end up being frustrated. And that's why we have a lot of single people that are frustrated, because they hold marriage as a value. Most of our society push it on us. As a matter of fact, it says you must uphold marriage as a value of your life. Marriage is a good thing, and once you get it, of course it should be of great importance to you. But the thing is, as a single person, you're not supposed to hold marriage as a value of your life. Because are you telling me that regardless of how you've worked on yourself to be the best version of yourself, you're willing to see yourself as a failure? Because guess what? When it comes to value, how close we are to achieving our values, how close we are to being aligned with our values, determines how successful we are. When you're totally in line with your value, then you are totally successful. That's the definition of success. That's how we define success. Some people, they see success as being rich. So how rich they are, or how close to being rich they are, determines how successful or how big of a failure they are. Because being rich is of great value to them. Some people is not riches. Some people is like being a good person, traveling the world. So the more countries they've traveled, the more successful they feel. Some people is having multiple companies, so with more companies they have, more successful. Some people, they value being in good relationship with their family members, so the more cordial they are with their family members, the more successful they feel. So the closer you are to your values, the more successful you feel. So are you telling me that despite the fact that you've worked so much on yourself and you've achieved all these things, you've started a company, you've taken your family out of poverty, you are helping the poor, and you're doing so many good things, but you're still ready to see yourself as a failure? Are you ready for that? Because marriage is of value to you, and despite the fact that you've accomplished all these things, you will definitely see yourself as a failure. You see yourself as you've not made it, and the society has conditioned women for the longest, especially women, yes, to value marriage so much. So regardless of what they have accomplished, so far as they are not married, they are failures. So the closer a lady is to marriage, the more fulfilled she is, the more she sees herself being successful. So if she's in a committed relationship, she feels like, okay, she's a bit successful. If she is now engaged, like, we have arrived, like, and then when she gets married, like, her whole life's mission has been accomplished. She's the most successful person in the world, like. And so if you are unable to get married, because put in mind, marriage does not just depend on you alone. If you have done all these things and because you did not get it, you are ready to see yourself as a failure, that's definitely a bad value to have. And At this point, let me pause and say, are you someone that is still single and you feel frustrated with being single? Because for the longest, you valued being married, you valued marriage. Marriage is one of your life values, and you feel like you don't want to live this life like this. You don't want to feel miserable, you don't want to waste a portion of your life feeling like this, and you just need someone to hold your hands. Then I have good news for you. I've written a book a while ago titled Single, Thriving and Secure. I go in depth in the book concerning issues like this, how you shouldn't allow being unmarried to make you miserable, and how you can actually be happy with the process of being single. And in fact, I went deep into defining what it really means to be single, because the misconception starts from there. First of all, we have the wrong definition of what single means. So there are so many misconceptions, there are so many wrong beliefs that we hold on to, there are so many wrong ideologies, and I've tackled a lot of them in the book. And so I'll encourage anyone that's single and is finding it hard to be single, hard to be happy being single, and hard to see singleness as a good value to have, then I'll recommend this book. It's available on Amazon as a paperback and a soft copy. So go get it if you need that helping hand, because books are the best of friends. They are always there, they're the best companions. And I think that book will be of help to you. If you know someone that will need it, then you can recommend it to that person. Because of a truth, singleness is a good value to have. You can decide to stay single. It totally depends on you and you alone to be single or not. 100 suitors can decide to come every day, and you can still say no to all of them because you want to stay single, and you can achieve that. And so that's a good value. It meets the criteria of the definition of a good value. As bizarre as that may sound, that's actually a good value to have, because it's totally depending on you. And remember, your happiness is key in order for you to have the energy to do the work that you want. In order for you to be productive as you want, you need to have energy to do the work and show up. And so when you're happy, you have the energy, and having the right values will help you. So some of the bad values that I've mentioned, if you notice, there are just few tweaks. Most times there are just few tweaks for you to make in order for you to convert them into good values. And so like now, instead of valuing marriage, you can value being the best version of yourself, because when you're the best version of yourself, then you have higher chances of attracting someone that's on the same level as you, someone that can be compatible with you, and you're increasing your chances of getting married. So instead of valuing marriage, you should value being the best version of yourself. It totally depends on you to really actualize that. So instead of valuing people liking you, you can value being a good person in general. Instead of valuing people laughing at your jokes, you can value being someone with a great sense of humor. There are so many other values. And when you get married, instead of valuing having a happy home, a functioning home, value being a good husband, value being a good wife, depending on your gender. So because you can try all your best, but sometimes if the other person is not cooperating, you're not going to have a functioning home, you're not going to have a happy home, no matter how hard you try. And I know it's a good thing to have, but to hold it as a core life value, it doesn't fit into the definition of a good value. I'm sorry, let's just be real. I'm sorry, it's a good thing to have. And so when you are the best husband, when you value being the best wife possible, then you increase your chances of having a functioning home. That's what I'm saying. So instead of just valuing having a functioning home, value being a good partner. In your family, you may be the child, value being a good child rather than value having a functional home. Value being a great sibling. That's how it works. And so there are some values yet again that are just great, like now money. Value being rich is neither bad nor good, but there are layers to it that determine whether it's going to shift to the left or shift to the right. So because it's not really a good or a bad value on its own, once you get the money, life is not going to reward you with the full reward. It's going to give you a fraction of the reward because you're not right and you're not wrong. So it's gonna just dash you a small portion of the reward. Oh, I was busy recording, not knowing that the camera had stopped because memory was full. But we continue. I'll share these tips with you. Okay, so I believe I stopped where I was saying that money, desiring money, having money as a value, being rich. If that's your value, it's not a bad value to have or a good value to have, it's just neutral. And so life will in turn just dash you the rewards, not fully give it to you. That's why when you hit that 1 million, you're gonna just get a momentary happiness that's not gonna last, because money itself is not really good or bad, but it's the other layers that determine whether it's good or bad. So if you want to have the money so as to afford a healthy lifestyle or to help the less privileged, then that's a good value, right? And so you're gonna get fulfillment from doing those things. But when you want the money so as to oppress your friends, your friend group, those people that you're in competition with, then that's not really a good value, and so you're not going to get the full reward, you're not going to get a good reward at the end of it all. And so, as a matter of fact, let me give you this prayer tip. If you're asking for money, man, next time you're asking for money, let God know what you're going to do with the money. Tell him that money is out there, it's in different hands, but you want this, like let me say 1 million, to be in your hand, because it is only when it is in your hand and you have control over it that it has the ability to do so and so and so thing. Wherever it is right now, that money cannot be able to achieve these things unless it is in your control. That's why you're asking God to send that amount of money to you, let it be under your control, because you're going to use it for this and this and this. That's something you should consider next time you're praying for financial upliftment. I think it's gonna help. Maybe you're gonna get the results fast and faster. So what else? I've already recorded this thing. Oh God, have mercy. Okay, even if I can't remember some of them, I'll make another video and I'm going to share it when they come to mind. So we've talked about values for a long while now. Let's move to the metrics. Metrics is what you use in measuring how close you are, how aligned you are with your values, right? So the metrics has to be right. The value can be right, but if the metrics is wrong, you're going to deprive yourself from the end result, which is happiness, fulfillment, and being a joyful person. So let me give an example of a bad metrics. Okay, let's come up with a good value. Maybe let's say your value is to be a wonderful sibling, a wonderful elder sister to your siblings, and so it's a good value. But the problem is you see yourself as a good sister if and only if you are able to supply all their needs according to how they want to. Remember, you're not God. So you want whatever they ask you, you're able to meet that need according to how they want it to be met. Whenever you're unable to do that, you see yourself as a bad sister, as a bad brother, and maybe you consider being a good sibling when you're able to see your siblings and your family members twice a week. But sometimes life happens and you're unable to see them. So whenever you're unable to see them twice a week, you feel like you're a failure. You're not a good family member, you're not a good sibling. What again? You see yourself as a good sibling when you call them every time, but guess what, sometimes you may be too busy or they may be too busy and a week will fly by without you speaking. Life happens, right? And then you begin to see yourself as a failure. That is a bad matrix, because at the end of the day, it's your intentions and how much effort you put into it that counts. When you know that you've put in all your best into meeting their needs, even though you're unable to meet all their needs, you are a good sibling. So far as you are able to communicate with them time to time and you have them in your heart, you wish them well, and whenever you have the opportunity to do something great for them, you do it. Whenever you have the opportunity to see them, you take advantage of it, then you're a good sibling, regardless of the fact that sometimes you don't see them for a week. That's not the right metrics to use. The next point is If you want to be consistently productive, then it is most likely that you need to redefine what pleasure means to you, because there is no way you can do something consistently. There's no way you can be consistent in doing something that is not consistent with your default setting. And what is consistent with our default setting? What easily comes to mind is pleasure. Show me one person that does not want pleasure. Show me someone that hates pleasure. I've never met such a person. If you are that person, please comment in the comment section. But for me, I've never seen someone that hates pleasure. Yes, we have some people that do some things that seem as though they want to hurt themselves. But hey, that thing they're doing doesn't suit into the definition of what we define pleasure to be. But as for them, it suits into the definition. There is some form of pleasure they are deriving from that thing. That's why they keep doing it. Because we've been wired to crave for pleasure. It is our automatic setting. So, as James Clear said in his book Atomic Habits, make it desirable, make it pleasurable. That means pleasure is desirable. We run after it. We've been conditioned to chase after it. So, it is what it is. Unfortunately, most of us define pleasure to mean easy, and so anything that is not easy is opposite of pleasure. It's at the extreme end of the opposite side of pleasure, as a matter of fact. So sitting down, scrolling through TikTok, binge watching YouTube videos is easy, and so you chase after it. You do it over and over again, even though it's causing anxiety to you. Even though you know deep within you that you're not supposed to be scrolling this long, you're supposed to get out of this app and go and do something important, and you know you're going to regret it, but you still find yourself sitting down and watching the videos, or lying down and watching the videos, as the case may be. Why? Because it is consistent with your automatic setting. You have the right to choose the definition of pleasure, but you don't have a choice when it comes to you chasing after pleasure, because it's just a default setting. So I guess it's still a fair game, because you have a part to play. Just like a phone, there are those settings that are factory settings, whereas there are some settings that you can customize. So it's just like that. You cannot change the fact that we chase after pleasure, but you can alter the definition of pleasure, because at the end of the day, pleasure is whatever you define it to be. That person defines that activity that you see as devastating, as deadly, he defines it as pleasure. That's why he's addicted, as a matter of fact, to the alcohol or to the drugs or whatever lifestyle he is doing or she is doing, because they define it as pleasure. Whereas to you, that's horror. You're doing horror to your body. That's your definition. That it doesn't fit into your definition of pleasure. So pleasure at the end of the day is what you define it to be. So let's sit down here and define it in a way that it will help us to be consistently productive. So instead of seeing pleasure to be something that's just easy, why not see it as anything that brings you closer to your values? Because the closer you are to your values, the more successful you see yourself. And there's a feeling that comes with success. There's a feeling that comes with being fulfilled. Maybe fulfillment itself is a feeling. So you love it. You like how you feel, and you like the position you get in life whenever you are closer to your values. And so that brings pleasure to you. So regardless of whether what you have to do is easy or hard, so far as when you do it, it takes you closer to your values, then it's pleasure. If you see easy as pleasure, that is when you begin to face resistance. Whenever you need to read, you want to read, but reading for 4 hours daily is not easy, and so your brain will bring resistance to it because it doesn't fit into the definition of pleasure. Whether you want to do it or not, it doesn't fit into the definition, so your brain will automatically bring resistance. But when you see that, okay, when I read 4 hours a day, I'll end up getting good grades. Having good grades is a value of mine, and when I get good grades, that means I feel successful. I see myself as a successful person, and there's a feeling that comes with that, and there's a position that places me that I desire, and that brings pleasure to me. I like it. It brings fulfillment. It makes me happy. It makes me a joyful person. So that is pleasure to me. When you have that redefinition, when you redefine that to your brain, that's when you begin to notice that you don't build resistance anymore. Your brain doesn't bring as much resistance as it would before. Whenever you open your book to read, whenever you begin to read for long and long hours, because you've redefined what pleasure means to you. As I said in the beginning, a good relationship requires two things, which are good communication and trust. So you need to just sit down and have this decent conversation with yourself. Talk to your brain as a child, as though it is a child, and then explain everything clearly so that you guys will be on the same page, and then you'll move smoothly and you have a wonderful relationship with yourself, which will lead to you being super productive because there's no resistance towards the right things. When you redefine pleasure and then you see that anything that brings you closer to your values, which will involve you being productive, I believe, you'll now realize that being productive is now consistent with your automatic setting, with your default setting. Take for example an activity that's not part of our default setting is brushing, right? We don't wake up in the morning and start wondering, okay, how am I going to put the toothpaste on my brush? Like, we already know how we're going to put it. We've done it multiple times. We brush daily, right? I believe we do. So we know how to put the toothpaste, we know how to brush our teeth. We don't need to start thinking of how to take it up, how to take it down. No, it's just automatic, and so we do it every day. And that's the point you want to reach when it comes to being productive. You don't want to be productive one day or maybe 2 days and then you fall off the productivity chart. I guess we want to be consistently productive. I guess that's why some of you are watching this video, because at some point you are productive and then maybe now you're not, and you want to go back there, and you are tired of this constant on and off. You want to be constantly productive, and so in order for you to do that, you have to make sure that productivity is now consistent with your default setting. And how can it be? When you redefine pleasure, which is something that's already consistent with your default setting, to suit the definition of productivity. When you match the two together, then you have incorporated it into the system, and you'll do it like how you just wake up and brush your teeth. Yeah. So the lesser brain work you put into it, the more productive you become. The thing is, I realized that my most productive days happen to be those days that I just find myself doing things that I did not even think about doing the previous day or even earlier on that day. Like, as the idea is coming to my head, I'm doing it. I'll now realize at the end of the day that my day was super productive because I didn't waste time, the limited time, nor the limited energy I have in thinking. Our brain uses so much energy. I'm telling you, the lesser time you dedicate to thinking, the more time and energy you have to do the actual work. It's not by thinking about a thing that we get it done. We don't get a thing done by thinking about it. We get a thing done by actually getting up and doing the actions. Don't get me wrong, I know we have to think about it, but as you're thinking about it, don't wait. Don't waste time. Just go. Like now, to me, I feel like I'll be at my optimal productivity when I'm able to do all the things on my to-do list while maintaining a clean environment. And how can I be able to do that? I can achieve that whenever my eye sees a thing that's not in the right place, I immediately pick it and take it to where it's supposed to be, instead of like sitting down to think like, oh, let me think about the right time or the right day that I'm going to arrange everything. If that's the case, then that means I'll end up with 6 days of messy place and just 1 day of a clean space, and that's not optimal productivity for me based on my values. And so the lesser I have to think about picking the things, the quicker I do it, and it becomes automatic to me, the more assured I am of having a clean space, which will mean I'm at my optimal productivity. Let me just throw one point here, and I'm not going to even explain it because I've explained it in another video. The thing is, Stop mentally holding on to past stress and past efforts. Yesterday is gone. The effort you've put in yesterday is gone with yesterday. Today it's a brand new day. You woke up fresh with new energy, with new food that you're about to eat or you've eaten. So put in the energy, put in the effort you are supposed to put into the work today. Stop holding on to the past efforts and struggles that you went through yesterday over this one task. No, don't do that. That is another form of sunk cost fallacy that the internet is saying nothing about. I came across this by analyzing my own life experiences. So I've talked in-depthly about it in a previous video that I'll be dropping the link in my description box, so you can check it out. I explained it. I showed how you can overcome this form of sunk cost fallacy in specific. If you've enjoyed the video or you've learned something from the video, please give a thumbs up and share it with someone that you think will need to hear this. They need to hear this. Share it with them. And also don't forget to subscribe, because more insights like this will be dropping on this channel, and I'll also be reviewing similar videos to these videos that discuss things that I would normally discuss. So you'll like to stick around for that by subscribing. And as usual, until next time, why only succeed when you can thrive? Bye bye.